This is a lot of sugar. They're all different. They all have a purpose. And you may or may have some of these at home. You might have a lot more. So what's the difference? What should you use? What's the best one? What's the healthiest one? It's hard to answer that, but we're going to figure it out right now. Welcome to another episode of Secret Kitchens of New Jersey. I'm just pouring my coffee. We're going to be talking about sugar today. And if you're like a lot of people, you might start out your day with your morning coffee, and that might be your first shot of sugar for the day. So I just put some half and half in my coffee. And well, I like 1 packet of stevia. Okay, so what's up with all this sugar? I'm getting ready to bake an apple galette. You can see I've got most of my ingredients over there all set to go. And I thought, well, you know what? I want to talk a little bit about sugar because this is another question that people have asked me about as a baker. You know, we like to bake, of course. We like to eat what we bake, but a lot of people are... they want to or they need to cut back, dramatically reduce their sugar intake. So first of all, let me have a little coffee. You like my mug? Okay, so I've got a lot of different sugars here. And I just wanted to talk briefly about what are some options if you want to cut down on your sugar. So let's say the recipe calls for a cup of sugar. One thing you might do, now if you eliminate the sugar completely, I don't recommend that. You might dramatically alter the recipe, change the texture. It's not going to cook correctly or bake correctly. Maybe reduce it by barely 1/4 cup at first and see if you like it, see if it doesn't change anything. You know, if it changes something, then you know that maybe you took out too much sugar. And of course, if you add too much sugar too, well, you might make it overly sweet. You know, I was in the supermarket just the other day, and you're going to see I'm going to do a little B-roll up there. You can see all of the different sugar options that I saw in the sugar and baking aisle. I mean, it took my breath away because even though I do buy from that aisle, I never really thought about it with so much detail. So you can see there's a lot of different choices. So let's just kind of go over some of the things. So first of all, white sugar, everybody has it. It's white sugar, you know, white refined sugar. Certainly not, doesn't fall under the category of health food, but like anything else in moderation, you're probably okay. I don't have a very sweet tooth, and when I bake, I don't use a lot of extra sugar. But this is what most people are probably dealing with. Of course, we also have brown sugar. And brown sugar, it's brown because it's white sugar that molasses has been added to it. And it gets these wonderful, depth of flavor and these sort of almost like deep caramel notes in there. I mean, think of a chocolate chip cookie, it has brown sugar in it. Always a wonderful thing for baking. Brown sugars, and like if you're making an apple crisp or something like that. These are 2 sugars that honestly I just couldn't be without. Having said that, let's just kind of go over on this side. So yes, when I bake, and I bake a lot for my family and my friends, I do respect that a lot of people have dietary situations, and I don't want to eat a lot of sugar myself. So here is, let me first tell you, the most popular sugar substitute in baking, most likely, it seems like it's Splenda. And Splenda, you can buy it in the supermarket. It comes, here's of course, little Splenda packet. People put it in their coffee all the time. Splenda. Splenda is sucralose. And it's a manufactured product. And And the thing is that you can maybe try reducing the sugar with half white sugar, half Splenda. Splenda you use 1-to-1, 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of Splenda. It also comes in a brown sugar, the Splenda. So that's a brand name. You'll see all that in the supermarket. So Splenda is handy. Actually, I don't even have it in the house, but I do frequently use, here's my stevia. I decant everything. Stevia it's light as a feather. It comes from the natural stevia plant. It is very, very sweet. You also use it 1-to-1 with your sugar. Let's just, take a coffee break. So I do like stevia for baking, and I frequently use it in my baking. Sometimes I substitute like half the sugar, regular sugar, and the other half, let's say, stevia. By the way, when I do this, secret's out now, I don't tell everyone that I've done that. Because you know very well, there's always people out there that want to analyze everything you cooked, and if you tell them what's in it, that might be the end of it. But stevia is a great option for baking. Highly recommend it, and I use it frequently. Now another one that I use a lot is called monk fruit. Again, easy to find. You find it in the supermarket, buy it in a packet, monk fruit. 1-to-1, like sugar. I use it frequently. I don't feel like there's any change in texture or taste. And if I'm concerned, like I said, I would maybe substitute half and half. Another sugar that I simply could not live without is coconut sugar. Now here's the thing with coconut sugar. It kind of, if you put it next to the brown sugar, you can see that it's naturally dark like the brown sugar. So coconut sugar, well, it's real sugar, and it's got those same depth of flavor, those caramelly tones that brown sugar has. It's wonderful for baking. Now, the thing about coconut sugar that people like, if you've got diabetes, let's say, or you are really reducing your sugar, so there's something called the glycemic index. You can look it up. I'm not going to get into that. But it has to do with how quickly food spikes in your bloodstream, how quickly the sugar goes in your bloodstream. Coconut sugar has a very low glycemic index, which means it would be a good substitute for someone who is diabetic or watching their sugar. Now, having said that, it's still sugar, okay? It's not calorie free. I mean, I think it's calorie for calorie, just like any other sugar, just a little better for you. All right, so let's see. You've got your stevia. Okay, so here's something else that I couldn't live without. It's solidified there a little bit. This is my demerara sugar. So here you can kind of see that it's a very coarse sugar. It's got a little bit of color to it. So what I do with that is, and because I'm going to be making an apple galette later, and because I don't add a lot of sugar to it, I'll take maybe a tablespoon of the coarse sugar and I'll put it across the top of it. So you get a little extra sweetness, and it also gives you like a little bit of a crunch. And I love to use that for when I'm baking. Now we also have some other sweeteners. Nothing is sponsored here. I'm just showing you what I just took right out of my pantry. Honey, we've got agave and maple syrup. These are all great sweeteners. If I'm doing something that's already in a liquid form, I will typically add the blue agave. Love to use that. It certainly has calories. It's very sweet, but also goes into your bloodstream a lot slower, similar to this. Honey and maple syrup, all of these, you can use them as a substitute for sugar when you bake, but it is not a 1-to-1, and you would really need to check that out. And if you go too far astray here, you may very well alter whatever it is, the texture of whatever you're baking. So you want to be careful. And if you're adding a liquid kind of a sweetener, you will probably need to reduce the amount of liquid in whatever it is that you're baking. All right? So, that's good. All right, so another thing I want to mention that I don't have in the house let me look at my notes here so I make sure I pronounce it correctly. There's two other kinds of sweeteners that you're going to find in the supermarket, and they've got xylitol and erythritol. They end in the OL. And how I remember this, these have sugar alcohols in them. 0 calories, so that's all good. You know, it's not going to hurt your teeth. It's not going to upset you for diabetes, or, you know, it's not going to increase your sugar level. However, the sugar alcohols, when in quantity, for some people will give you a very upset stomach. So I don't know what that magic number of the quantity is, but that will be different for everyone. So you might want to use those in moderation. So in fact, I think the key word here is moderation. Use sugar, not telling you not to. Use things in moderation. But if you really are looking for some substitutes, my two favorites are stevia and monk fruit. And like I said, I don't share it with everyone that I'm subbing out the sugar, and I suggest you do the same. You know, you have a lot of people like to analyze everything in their food, and if they think you didn't use real sugar, they might get a little crazy on you. Not worth it. So that's what I want to say about sugar. And I'm going to go and I'm going to make an apple galette, and I am going to use, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to use the stevia. I'm going to use probably, I'm going to say barely 1/4 cup to sweeten it. That's all. Because these are nice, these are Honeycrisp apples I'm using, and they're already pretty sweet. So that's something to think about too. You feel free to reduce the amount of sugar if you're cooking with fruit and you know it's already pretty sweet. Hey, I hope you found this information to be useful, and I hope that you will like and subscribe to our channel. And I will see you next time for another episode of Secret Kitchens of New Jersey.